Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Building Bigger Lives podcast. Again, I'm Michael Regan along with Kathryn Pedersen. And as we like to do each and every Wednesday, we're bringing an episode that we hope you, the entrepreneurial leader and small business owner, will benefit from. And today we're going to talk specifically about the housing industry and the summer buying season because we are here, we're in the middle of it. And depending on when you're listening to this particular episode, you've seen some of the reality of the summer buying season. And so I want to talk about that with one of my favorite housing industry professionals, my co-host, Kathryn Pedersen.
Good to see you, Michael, as always. And summer is always fun. So there we go. I sometimes think, why did I pick a profession that can be really crazy in the summer when it's one of the best times of the year? But it's just the way it is, and that's okay.
So
So,
maybe the trade-off is you get a nice, calm holiday season come Christmas
yes,
time.
yes, that's true. Other than frantic 1031s, but other than that,
There's
yeah.
always something that I guess. So let's maybe set the table with that for those of you that are listening that are in the housing industry, whether you're on the real estate side or you're on the lending side, or maybe you're involved in one of the ancillary support systems. You know that that's really the truth. That there's really always something going on. It's really a job that when you sign up to work in this world, you're always available at some level. You're always capable of, reacting and responding and doing something. So a lot of what we work on in coaching is how do you build boundaries around that so you don't end up, going crazy. It's a full-time gig. No one's complaining. We all enjoyed signing up for this and we've benefited a lot from it, but you're right. It's hard to find a slow season.
Yeah, that is the truth. But with that, we're going to talk about the summer season.
Here we are. So here's the big surprise. I think most folks, and not surprised necessarily directly to our audience, but I would say to the much larger audience, when you look out to the public, I think there is a sense of, oh my gosh, like it's time to figure out what I'm going to do if I need to purchase real estate. And the reason this is a bit of a surprise is there aren't any real outside factors that should be driving this. We haven't seen a drop in rates. We haven't seen some, ridiculous spike in inventory or maybe drop in purchase prices. We've seen some moderating, don't get me wrong. And there are some markets where you'd say there are some niche price points that have definitely adjusted. But let's be honest when we say that. These are drops to historical norms from what were historically really crazy appreciation rates. So I'm not going to call those, we're not cratering. No one's giving away housing. And so talk to me about this, Kathryn. What's going on? Why has this become a really strong summer for purchase business when no outside factors were really driving this?
Well, no matter what happens with a person, right? We talk about families and when when households are formed and all those fancy things for a person eventually might have to move. And you can put it off. You can put it off for 3 months. You can put it off for 6 months. You can put it off for a year, maybe 2 years. But let's say you have a kid and all of a sudden now your space is a little tight, or you get a different job in a different market, or things happen that you can't put it off anymore. And I think that's a little bit where we're at. The other piece is in buyers' minds. You get used to rates at 4% and you think, oh, now they're 6. That's crazy. And I'm just going to wait for it to go back to 4. But eventually people figure out, oh, wait, maybe 4 was the odd piece and the 6 is the normal piece. And eventually people mature and get used to those. And sometimes it just starts to feel better of, hey, between my need and what's going on in my head with what's normal, I think we're starting to see some people say, you know what, maybe this is time, along with a little bit of hope. Like sometimes those price reductions, if we have a seller who's come down, makes buyers hopeful. And so sometimes it's funny how that can spur activity, even if the buyer started out or the seller started too high to begin with. So it's some mental stuff going on as well.
Wow, you've just hit probably three really great angles to that question. So thank you for that. And I guess I'll throw a fourth in only because I see this as well. I think there was a lot of pent up demand from all the way back in
Mhm.
2019. I think there were some folks in 2019 that were making their plans for 2020. And maybe that winter, as they were doing their family New Year's planning, like, what are we going to do in 2020? They might have talked about a vacation they were going to take, or they might have talked about a car they were going to purchase. There was something going on. But if one of the topics was, hey, this summer, when the school year's out, it's going to be time for us because, to your point, maybe of kids, that'd be a really good illustration. Sometimes these kids, they start off little and they get big and they've got more stuff and they need more space. Suddenly they're, in dance or they're in sports or whatever they're doing, and they've got gear, they've got stuff. Well, that decision they were making in the winter of 2019 and 2020 got thrown in, let's just call it a pretty big monkey wrench, got thrown into that plan because by March of that year, we found out what COVID was. And we found out unless you have to move, most people didn't move at all in 2020. Now, the good news is they took advantage of some refinancing and really lowered their cost and their basis. That's great. But the decision they made at that moment was, I'm just going to hold off. And Kathryn, some of those folks just kept holding off. Not all, of course. We've seen purchase activity in 23 and 24 and 25, but not at any kind of a pace that we're used to in the summer season. Suddenly, 26 seems to be rising back up to a rather normal pace of activity in the summer. And I wonder if that's a factor as well, as the pent up demand was just, I don't know what I'm waiting for. I mean, life is moving on. So back to some of your points, it's normal activities. It's not necessarily, it's a job transfer. It's a child growing up. It's a baby being born. Maybe it's even empty nesting. People have want to change their housing because we don't need all this space anymore. Whatever the reason is, sounds like there's a lot of normal going on around there. What are you hearing when you're talking with agents? Are they feeling differently about this, and how is this impacting the version of business they are doing?
I think agents' biggest worry right now is, hey, we've got some listings, at least in our market, a lot more listings happen in the summer. So they are busy, but they have to find those buyers for those properties. And that takes a lot of work with maybe not a lot of closings, depending on the timing of it. We'll see a lot of things get under contract in the summer, partially because there is more inventory. It's really hard to show a property that's covered in snow. Not that we don't, because we do all the time, but different properties sell better at different times of the year. So you're going to bring on more listings in the summer. So there's some agents who are like, man, we are jamming and things are rocking and we are super excited. And then there's some that are like, holy cow, what's happening? I need some listings. I need some phone calls. I need some buyers. So you definitely have a little bit of that K economy showing up where you've got some people who are really busy and some that are definitely want some more action.
One of the things that occurs to me, if I'm a real estate professional and I'm looking at the world through the lens of 2026, and this is maybe the first summer where those listings are starting to come up and I'm starting to hustle for those buyers, everything you just said, and I'm willing to do the work. Let's just presume that these aren't lazy people. In fact, I don't think anybody has survived in the housing industry that isn't really good at what they do. I think we're talking to an audience of people who are
Mhm.
generally the professionals. They're not this wasn't a part-time gig. So no one's unwilling to do the work, but they're now dealing in a world in 2026 that looks radically different than the technology and the platforms they had available back in 2018 and 19, the last couple of summers that would have been really normal purchase summers. Granted, they've had some time to learn how to adopt these technologies and adapt to new processes, but now we're stress testing them. This is real time. People are searching on web portals before they go jumping in the back of a car to go tour houses. I mean, we act like that was the Stone Ages. That wasn't that long ago to where your normal buyer behavior was, hey, I'd like to go look at houses. We sign some sort of buyer agreement and we get in the back of the car and we go do tours based on the parameters we've set.
Mhm.
Now we're doing so much of that through a portal. So much, in fact, often buyers are sending the agents like, this is the house I'd like to look at. They're directing it versus the other way around. How does that shift play out? Are the agents, are they nimble to that? Are they agile as the technology has forced them to operate differently, or are you finding some folks that don't know how to make that shift? What are you seeing when you talk to the agents in your market?
I don't really think they have a choice. They have to deal with what's coming at them, and if they haven't made that switch over, we've seen some of that. Those agents are not busy. Those agents are not getting the business because it's always scary if you call the agent and they can't find it or they don't know about it or they don't know how to look for it, all those things. And technology really can show that buyer that property within 5 minutes of it getting listed. So it's just going to be a different environment. So you have to have certain systems that automatically quick send that out. So I think that there's agents who have adapted really well. And as always, there's some that are like, never mind, this isn't going to work for me. Obviously, everyone's a little bit different, but I think the other thing is people can get overwhelmed with that technology.
Yeah.
So I'm starting to see things like, hey, I heard from chat that this is a question I should ask you. So we're starting to see more people come into the office, but they might be armed with the questions that they got from technology, or they might say, "Hey, I saw this house on Zillow, but guess what? It's a manufactured home in a park." That's not translated through that. So sometimes you just need someone to disseminate that information and be a person in that transaction to walk them through. But I think there's both pieces of that working together.
Yeah, and I guess that same scenario you just played out with a buyer and a real estate agent is also true for lenders. I mean, I realize you're in
Mhm.
this category, but you also network with a lot of folks on your side of the industry, and you know what they're dealing with. What's the experience been like for the lender as we go into a really strong purchase summer? Is hope part of the equation for them, or what are they feeling and thinking as they look at the opportunity? Because the clock's ticking. We're right here in the heart of the summer,
Mhm.
and it's time. What are they feeling?
Yeah, I think the deals can be a little bit harder. And part of that is, it's affordability has been stretched for a while and we're still seeing that. So sometimes you're dealing with some hair. Right now we have a couple properties just in my county that have some more, condition issues. So buyers are motivated to get out there and get places purchased, but also you've got some sellers that are like they can only do so much. So I think it's just deals are more tricky and involve more coordination, more creative loan officers, but also being able to handle a little bit more volume while you're dealing with those issues creates some holy cow, how do we manage our time correctly to get through all the work that's involved in the summer?
So, what are some of the ways that those lenders are leveraging technology differently today than they might have the last time we had a strong purchase season? And is it impacting their file flow, their process, their team setup? Like are things different? We've interviewed some folks on the podcast where you see a little bit of both. You see some folks that are completely embracing the modern loan originator model, and others that have gone back to the future. They're like, we're doing this old school. But what's your take on that? Like, if sometimes you can't control the wind, you've got to learn to adjust your sails. How are they adjusting in this reality?
I think it all comes down to a good combination of things, right? So we know that the client is going to go online. We know that they're going to do certain things just because they are. It's hard to avoid while you're sitting and thinking about such a big, huge decision. But then it's, hey, at what points do we need to insert a person who is going to be empathetic and be able to walk them through this? And in what situations can we employ technology? And where's the good mixture of those two to help us be efficient with our time, but also provide that high service when people need it at those moments? And everyone is still, of course, figuring that out because it's a little bit of a moving target, but it's how to create that. So now I'm trying to be more um, really focus in on that emotional piece, which I feel like before we focused in more on the number piece, but now there's so many ways to do that through technology that we have to be a person first. So I think that has changed a little bit, but it's also just keeping up with all the things that have changed in our technology world over the last few years and how to utilize those tools.
Okay, I don't want to sound like Captain Obvious, but if I'm processing what you just said, that could to someone sound really overwhelming. Like, oh my gosh, it's not one or the other, it's a blend. That was your answer. I've got to be listening, I've got to be observing, I've got to be curious. And how are people handling this? I mean, there are a lot of people that might be saying at the surface, I've been waiting for a strong summer in which to kind of get back to the level of productivity that I aim for or that I'm used to. But are they ready for it? Are they mentally ready for it? Are they physically ready for it? Like, what's your advice for that person who maybe has been talking like they've been waiting for this, but they're maybe not quite ready? What will help them get over that hump so they can really experience the beauty of this opportunity in the summer buying season?
Well, A, you have to make hay while the sun shines, right? But B, what a better time to test systems and push things a little bit so you can figure out where they might break. That's okay to figure that out as you're moving ahead and say, okay, mental note, we're going to have to redo that email. Let's figure out how to do that. And sometimes urgency is how people get things done. So my daughter has had just her room has been a disaster since coming back from her apartment and it like unpacked and holy cow, right? And so she was kind of putting it off, and she was going to leave to go on a trip. And I said, well, you're really good at deadlines. So this is going to get done. And sure enough, it did. Well, that's kind of the summer market. We just have these deadlines, and it's a good time to whip through things and say, you know what, that's not working. I hadn't really been able to test how many files our team could do, what we could figure out. So it's okay. Plan more time in your purchase contracts because of the extra volume, and you can adjust things as you move ahead. And it's a great time to learn because there are some LOs who've still been really focused in on refinances, and now's maybe a time to say, hey, is my purchase process as strong as I need it to be?
I love the way you framed that, Catherine, because I think there's a takeaway there, and I want to grab it and make sure the audience hears it. Don't be afraid of pressure. Pressure is something that most of us, when we think of it, we have some connotation of, oh, well, I don't want to be under pressure. I don't want too much pressure. That's where stress is. Well, let's don't forget that some pressure is required. Like, go turn on the faucet at your house. If there's no water pressure, you're not getting any water, or you're getting a drip. It's going to be really weak. Same with your summer buying season. It's okay that you're experiencing some stress that comes from pressure. You just need to moderate that. You need to throttle it. You need to know where to harness it so that you're optimizing that pressure in a way to where it's producing really good things for you. And maybe to your point, it is helping you figure out, well, that used to work. It doesn't work anymore. Or I haven't tried that before. Wow, that's harder than I thought it was. I'm gonna have to try again. Like, be embracing of that. I love that that's the answer that you gave, because I think that, well, first of all, that fits with who I know you to be. You're clearly, a growth mindset person. But I hope our audience hears that, because if you can embrace a growth mindset in a summer buying season like we're seeing in 2026, the good news is the opportunities are there for you to help some people. And the downhill flow from that is it might help you as well. It might help you get some things figured out. It might help you put some money back in your account that you've been drawing from for a few years. It may give you even the hope, as Catherine said earlier, that you need, that, okay, we've survived through one of the tougher downturns in purchase cycles that we've seen, and we're still here and we're still helping people. Any closing thoughts on this, Catherine? Because I know we could talk a lot about some of the data points that are there too, but I'm really glad that we took more of the approach of, how people are thinking and how they're feeling. Any closing thoughts as you want to encourage someone? They might be a buyer, they might be a real estate agent, they might be a builder or another loan originator. What do you want to make sure they hear from you in the summer buying season of 26?
I would just say watch your expectations a little bit because sometimes as soon as people get busy, people say, oh, now we're going to be busy forever. I can kind of just operate as I was before. But everything is different now. So you kind of have to be mindful of things could change, and that's okay. But deal with what you have in front of you and stop projecting forward to say, oh my gosh, it's going to now be back to normal and everything is going to be fine. Deal with what you've got in front of you, capture the business you can as it's coming in, and remove those expectations for what the market's going to be in 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, because everything is changing so quickly. It's really hard to predict right now, and that's okay.
I don't know if this was what you intended. You just put a visual in my mind, and it's based on that idea of normal. Normal is such an amorphous term. We don't really know what normal is. Normal is a
Yeah.
fleeting moment in time. I mean, I guess at some point there's a median to everything we do. I mean, if you mathematically drew it all out and took the highs and the lows, you'd find a median. But is that normal, or is normal the actual gyration of experiences, both personally and professionally, that we're constantly managing? This is why when you and I talk in a coaching context, I'm not as big of a fan of this idea of work-life balance because I don't know what balance really is. My brain thinks of like the carpenter's level, when you get the bubble in the middle. I don't want to live life trying to keep the bubble in the middle. That's such a I mean, that sounds like the negative kind of stress, like, oh my gosh, I can't lose this balance. Yes, you can. It's like more like riding a bike. You're constantly out of balance riding a bike because every time you pedal, you're moving, but you find a groove, and pretty soon you're not swinging as much. You develop that harmony, which is the word I really love, and then you've got the flow. So enough buzzwords with my comments. It's just I love hearing you describe it that way because it creates that visual in my mind of if normal is what my brain thinks it's seeking, make sure I've got a really good definition. Adjust your expectations. Maybe normal is your ability just to ebb and flow and weave through a cycle that's constantly moving, and just embrace that. Be confident that you can handle that. You've survived through all of these cycles and you're still here to talk about it. Go help some people today, because there are people out there who need to be helped, whether you're selling real estate, you're financing real estate, or you, maybe the consumer, need to buy real estate. Be confident. It's a good time to invest in the one category that we know historically tends to go up. It may have its cycles, but I don't know anybody that bought real estate 10 years ago that didn't make money. It just trust the process. Kathryn, I appreciate the time with you, as I always do. It's great to get your takeaways. I know we sometimes interview other folks. It's fun to get your interview today and just get some takes on what you see in the summer buying season of 2026. Folks, if you enjoyed today's episode and you found something that you took, I hope you'll share it with someone. I hope you'll let them know that Building Bigger Lives is there each and every Wednesday. We drop a new episode, and we hope that you'll come back and enjoy another one soon. Thank you.